Yep. So first of all, thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. And also, thank you for the invitation on behalf of MediaTek to come here and to do a presentation and to meet all of you. So it's really a pleasure to be here for first time in GTI. My topic today, I will elaborate on some views from our side, MediaTek, about what are the key enablers unlocking the full potential of 5G Uplink capabilities, going into the direction of what we already are discussing about 5G advanced networks. This part I'm not going to elaborate that much because I think today we have seen already quite a lot of these aspects, so I'm not going to repeat the facts that we know, the kind of alignment that we have about the significant momentum of 5G. We know most of them today based on non-standalone networks, but we also see that the adoption and the commercialization of the standalone is also increasing, so it's good. And what is really this enabling is enabling more services beyond a smartphone. And today we already have just previously different representations about highlighting probably what is the most significant or the most relevant use case or 5G service beyond a smartphone, and it is fixed wireless access. So, based on the Ericsson Mobility Report and what we also saw from Huawei in the presentation, we are expecting already in the next couple of years a really linear increase about fixed wireless access connections. And what we are expecting is by the end of 2028, most of them are going to be based on 5G. So I would say, on our views, is that actually fixed wireless access today is the one that is pushing the capabilities of 5G. Because to meet that rising demand of the competitive kind of field area of broadband solutions, fixed wireless access needs to meet not only downlink capabilities but also uplink, which are important for those services that are also enabled by fixed wireless access. So I will talk about what are those key enablers, mainly with a focus on fixed wireless access CPU devices. So just to give an overview about what 3GPP has done so far across all the releases when it comes to uplink enhancement performance. So let's start with the baseline, so release 15. So probably what is really the baseline and what is everything based on is in this important kind of device capability, and it is today, the baseline is that the devices can support up to 2 transmitters. And this is the baseline for all the devices, not only for smartphones, also it is used for fixed wireless access and even other use cases as well. Some features have been introduced, so to enhance the uplink performance, so from the very beginning, high power UE, which is also coming from LTE, was already introduced for NR. Then the UE can be configured with different kind of capabilities. So for instance, when we consider single carrier, so the device can also be configured with uplink MIMO, so enabling 2 transmission layers. And then the UE can also be configured with 2 bands or 2 carriers to enable uplink carrier aggregation or supplementary uplink. But in this case, because of the limitation, this always will mean 1 transmitter in each of the carriers or each of the bands. So to enhance the uplink performance, one of the main features that were introduced later in 3GPP is uplink TX switching. So first in release 16, basically uplink TX switching was introduced to dynamically select the carrier based on different kind of factors: bandwidth, radio conditions, data traffic, and also mainly in the TDD frame structure. So the idea is to be able to enable that one transmitter can be switched within 2 bands. For example, just to enable, when there is this configuration of 2 carriers or 2 bands, that for example the TDD band can be enabled in those uplink opportunities with uplink MIMO. So that's the main idea why this was introduced. And this is based on uplink carrier aggregation or supplementary uplink. Then in release 17, what happened is 3GPP further enhanced the uplink TX switching by enabling the switching up to 2 transmitters and still within 2 bands. So Now we can switch also to transmitter, but it's still limited to 2 bands. And then in release 18, the ongoing specification, so it was further enhanced, but what? To switch up to 2 transmitters, but now it consisting of 3 or 4 bands. But probably you have noticed what is the limiting factor here. So now we are increasing along the releases the number of bands. But what is the main factor? This part here. So we can see that we cannot go beyond because we still have the limiting factor of 2 transmitters in the device. So we can still go beyond supporting more bands, but always maximum 2 uplink transmissions simultaneously. So uplink TX switching has 2 options, switch uplink and dual uplink. Very quickly here. So basically the only difference here, the switch uplink doesn't support simultaneous uplink transmission, so it's always TDM. In the case of dual uplink, it can also support TDM and simultaneous uplink transmission. And just see very quickly how it looks like. So it's starting in release 16. So what is happening is that in the option of switch uplink, it can go for 1 transmitter to 2 transmitter. In the case of dual uplink, the additional case is that you can have the regular uplink CA, each carrier with 1 transmitter, and then just going beyond. This is what we have. So probably my point here, the need or the natural next step to really have an advanced uplink performance should be to go beyond these 2 transmitters. But of course, we also need to rely that these 2 transmitters are probably still understandable, feasible for the case of smartphones. This kind of small form factor devices, maybe we cannot go beyond, but for the case of fixed wireless access that we are considering bigger form factor devices, we can go beyond. And that would mean that the next natural step of this evolution should be supporting at least 3 transmitters. So just to summarize what I said, so what we have today is either we can support uplink MIMO in single TDD carrier, for instance. We can support the regular uplink carrier aggregation, 2 transmitters simultaneously, or we can have the uplink TX switching whenever we have, for example, in the TDD, the uplink slot, we can enable uplink MIMO. But then we are not going to have simultaneous transmissions with, let's say, MIMO plus uplink carrier aggregation. So this is what we can enable with 3 transmitters. This is will be the main key point here. To enable that uplink carrier aggregation can simultaneously work with uplink MIMO. So that would mean that we will have simultaneously, for instance, TDD with uplink MIMO and simultaneously FDD transmission. So we are going to have an improvement in the spectral efficiency. We are going to have improvement in the resource utilization because we are going to be able to utilize all the resources from the available spectrum. What I just mentioned, we are going to be able to simultaneously enable uplink MIMO plus uplink carrier aggregation, but with this important factor, without considering any kind of switching or scheduling delays, which is also something impacting the uplink TX switching. And then, probably I can jump already to this figure here, just looking into theoretical uplink peak throughput. So an evaluation that we have done, we can already see a gain coming from 3TX uplink carrier aggregation compared to the release 16 uplink TX switching, so going already with 25% more enhancements there. But one of the aspects of also important, that some of you are familiar with that, is that uplink MIMO usually can be enabled in good radio conditions. So we cannot expect that 3TX should be the solution for all the kind of coverage radio conditions. So other important factor, and this is already introduced in 3GPP, is to support uplink MIMO in FDD bands as well. And even for fixed wireless access for the FDD low band, it has been already enabled that one of the bands, if I go wrong, the N71 in the 600 megahertz spectrum can already support uplink MIMO. So these 2 factors probably are the key drivers. 3TX for medium to good radio conditions, we can maximize the uplink carrier aggregation throughput, and then for the case that TDD coverage start degrading, so FDD uplink MIMO would be also an important factor to improve the uplink performance. So MediaTek has done already some evaluations. These are based on system-level simulations, just to compare the 4 cases here. So the case of the single FDD carrier with 1 layer, regular uplink carrier aggregation with 2 transmitters. Then we have the uplink carrier aggregation with 3 transmitters, which is something that MediaTek already is supporting in the commercial product for fixed wireless access, the T830. And then we have also the single carrier TDD with uplink MIMO. So in very good radio condition, what we can see is that if we have fixed wireless access CPE devices supporting these 3TX, we can enable this simultaneous uplink CAR plus uplink MIMO, and then we can improve already compared to the normal TDD uplink MIMO about 60% the throughput, the uplink throughput. And if we even compare it to the regular 2TX uplink carrier aggregation solution, so we can see that there is also a significant improvement. But then we can also notice that once the radio conditions start degrading, where the TDD, probably the aggregation of the TDD resources are not really bringing that much, maybe we start seeing that the difference between these two is not that big, but still between TDD and the 3TX uplink aggregation will provide a really significant uplink performance. But then later, moving into, let's say, cell edge conditions or medium cell edge conditions, then we see TDD is really not bringing anything, and then we are not going to see a big difference between even FDD single carrier. So, good part here is that we will have an uplink capacity boost based on 3TX in medium to good radio conditions. And then when we are going really into the bad TDD coverage, you know, also probably you're familiar, when TDD usually, so we have this gap between TDD and FDD bands. So FDD is really the kind of, we will rely on FDD bands for the extended coverage, for the better uplink throughput. And in those cases, if we enable the case of uplink MIMO in the FDD bands, in this evaluation, even considering the low FDD band, we can achieve double uplink throughput at edge cell conditions. So which is a good achievement. Here we can see when TDD really has already becoming very degraded, then it is not really aggregating anything to the throughput, and then everything will be boosted based on FDD, and if we support uplink MIMO, it will be really an advanced uplink performance. So this is how it looks, more or less, the way how we are going to really reach that point of when we talk about 5G advanced networks. Probably release 18 is how we call it already, 5G advanced network, but we know that there are already other factors that we need to address to really reach to that point. So if we just go into the path that we have, so we started with 2TX, is where we are today. So what we believe should be the next step to have an advanced uplink performance is to support 3TX for fixed wireless access devices. And then probably what we will see based on those capabilities is that we can look into other kind of use cases where we are going to support, for example, uplink carrier aggregation with 3 component carriers. And last slide, also good timing here. MediaTek is working with different partners, so we have been working already with some IoT testing with some of the infra vendors, also with operators. Working very close with operators, also with a very big interest in fixed wireless access. And here I'm just showing one of the examples. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had this news. So working with Ericsson, we achieved a really remarkable uplink throughput. So in a configuration, just to make clear, in a configuration with FDD with wideband, so it was FDD with 50 megahertz bandwidth and in a TDD band of 90 megahertz bandwidth, so we managed to achieve in the lab already above 560 Mbps uplink throughput, which is very close to what we can expect with this configuration in the theoretical peak uplink throughput. So what we can see from the logs here is that with 3TX, we can have simultaneous transmission all the time in FDD and TDD, where TDD will have always 2 layers, FDD always with 1 layer in this case, and then we are going to have this throughput boost coming from the 3TX. If we just do a comparison here, this is a comparison like taking into consideration what we achieved with 3TX and with the same kind of network configuration, what will be the comparison with the other kind of cases. We will have already a 35% improvement if we compare this 3TX aggregating throughput with the legacy or regular Uplink carrier aggregation with 2TX. If we compare it to release 16 Uplink TX switching, it will be around 40% throughput gain. If we only compare the benefits related to the FDD throughput, so with 3TX we will have the opportunity to transmit always in FDD, and if we compare it to the contribution of the FDD throughput in the Uplink TX switching case, it is around 50% benefits. And then if we compare it to the single carrier TDD with Uplink MIMO, it will be basically the double of the throughput. And that's it, what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was interesting.
Thank you so much for keeping on time. Quick questions?
Yes, thank you. In that slide where you mentioned 2 FDD carriers, it was both low band and the scenario where the signal degraded further? Yeah. The previous one?
Here.
No, the previous one.
The last one.
Where you have the level degradation.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So this one, FDD Uplink MIMO, or the case of 3TX?
The next one. The green is 2 carriers, right?
It's, no. So this is 1 carrier with Uplink MIMO. So you have the 2TX, two transmitters in the device, but 1
so
carrier.
we're talking about 600, right? In this case, low band.
This one 600 megahertz exactly. This is still using low band FDD. So today, 3GPP, the only band, low FDD band that has been enabled for Uplink MIMO has been N71, and this was the one that we consider for the evaluation.
It's the only band.
Excuse me?
It's the only band that is there now.
Uplink.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Solano. Thanks so much.